What's going on, guys? One half of the Hermit duo again, and today I'm actually going to bring you another opinion piece on what we want from the next game in a series. This is because so far the video we did for the next Dragon Age 4 has been the most popular. It's got sitting at almost 1,000 views now, and while that doesn't sound like much, for us it's a very big success, so to speak. And we are of course still going to do walkthroughs. That's going to be the bulk of our channel, but as obviously people seem to like these opinion pieces, we are going to do one every now and then whenever there's a game that is getting built up to, maybe it hasn't been announced yet, but that we want to just put our points across and say what we want to see in that next game. So without further ado, let's get into it. So I've just written a few notes on what areas of the game I'm going to talk about. So I haven't written a script, obviously, because I never write a script, because it would come across far too wooden. And all I'm going to do is go through them one by one and explain what I think should be changed, what should be kept, maybe what should be upgraded. Character customization. Now, this is already very good in Borderlands 2, obviously, because of all the skins and all the heads. Pre-sequel, it was a little bit more plain. There seemed to be a lot fewer, and those that were in there were just a simple palette change, which, to be fair, a lot of the skins in Borderlands 2 were palette changes, but there were some that added logos and different things on the face type of thing. I think they should at least keep it to the standard of Borderlands 2 and hopefully add different types of customization in, like maybe make it so the skin wasn't just the entire, below the neck. Maybe make it so you could change the top, you could add a shirt, pants, gloves on certain characters, or even with Krieg, the tape. So you can maybe have the tape from his prison, skin, pants from his pink, I'm the conductor of the poop train skin, and a chest piece from the Zafford one with the emblem on it. And obviously it wouldn't be Krieg, it wouldn't be those skins, but just another level of customization that lets you make your character even more unique. And I feel like that is where this game will thrive, giving people the ability to make characters more unique, because while there are a lot of people that like to look up character builds and follow them to make the strongest character they can, there are also a lot of people that just want their character to feel like their own, that nobody else has played in that exact same way before. And I feel like making different character customization options a thing would be a really good step in that direction. In capital letters, there's humour. In Borderlands, the pre-sequel, the humour was very lacklustre. It was dated, so after maybe even half a year, the humour didn't quite land properly. It was very based on what was happening when that game was released, and a lot of it was internet humour, which changes every few months anyway, as you know. Borderlands 2 though, if any new player comes to it, the humour is fresh, it's relevant, and it works. Any new player will laugh at Borderlands 2 because it is a very funny game. In places it's hilarious. And honestly, a big part of that is because obviously the pre-sequel was made by 2K Australia with very little help from 2K and Gearbox itself, whereas Borderlands and Borderlands 2 were made predominantly by Gearbox, and that's why they are the superior game. Obviously Borderlands 3 or 4 or whatever they're going to choose to call it will be made by Gearbox again, but I feel that for it to be a success it needs to have that humour back into it, because that is the heart of the Borderlands franchise. Without the humour, it's just another shooting route.
I'll be damned. That's E-Tech. If I'm going to treat people shot by E-Tech, I'm going to need way more wounds to practice on. Now that you got Doc Mercer's E-Tech gun, why don't you test it out on the local bandits?
Character classes. Now, this is a big one for me because the first game you had 3. You had Roland the Commando, you had Mordecai the Assassin, and Lilith the Siren, which respectively speaking were your Warrior, Rogue and Wizard classes. Now, in the Borderlands 2 game, they upped that by another 2 classes, because there was, to start with, there was Salvador, Axton, Maya, Zero, Okay, so in Borderlands 2 they upped that by 1 and moved it to 4 because they started with Axton, Salvador, Maya and Zero. And if you pre-ordered, you did get Gage, so technically you could say it was 5 on release, but for those who didn't pre-order, they didn't get Gage until they either got the Game of the Year edition or of course the Handsome Collection. And later on they did add Krieg, so of course this meant that there was 6 available characters for Borderlands 2. And now, if they stick with the habit of just increasing it by 1 and maybe adding some as DLC, which they did add 2 in as DLC for the pre-sequel, well then, you'd expect there to be at least 5 base character classes in Borderlands 3, and if they do that, then I really hope they make one of them the Psycho, because Krieg was one of the biggest successes when it came to DLC. Everyone who played him took to him, everyone loved him, because it was different to be able to play as such a off-the-wall character. He wasn't your typical grimacing hero in jeans that was way too cool for his own good, and he had no personality. Krieg was all psychopath. There was no control on him. He was rage incarnate basically, and that's why so many people liked him. So as for the character classes, I think they should definitely increase it to 5 and definitely add more later down the line, but I think that one of the starting classes should be Psycho, as that is a lot of people's favourite, along with Gunzerker, but obviously that one was already in anyway. Skill trees. Now, the reason I like the skill trees in Borderlands 2 was that it upgraded from the first one, in that there was more skills to choose from and there was more differential between the skill trees. And at first, when the level cap was 50, you did have to specialise into one tree, and while you could spread your skill points a little bit more and get to this, you know, the cap skill of 2 trees, ultimately at level 50 it was better if you specialised into one. And again, that adds a level of uniqueness, because yeah, you're going to choose one of the 4 characters to begin, well, one of the 4 or 5 characters to begin with, and then you're going to have to specialise into one tree. So not only are you 1/5 of players, you're then 1/3 of that 1/5. So I mean, I'm not going to do the math, but it added a level of personalisation to the game, shall we say. And I feel that is a very good way to, you know, make people stand out. But what they could also do is put sub skills or maybe a specialisation to the class, just adding another layer, again making it more unique, more personalised. And I don't want them to go too crazy, but because of the increase to 72, you could quite easily cap out 2 trees to the fullest, one, you know, maybe just about capped, or you could spread it and get the best of all 3 trees. And I feel that was a bit too easy. They should make it so that there has to be at least some planning when it comes to skill points, and I think by making sub skills that might help allocate the skills more stringently, type thing. Driving mechanics. Now this is a very small point that is just a gripe for me. When you drive, there are times when your wheels get stuck on the geometry and your car will get flipped and you'll get stopped, your momentum will be ruined, and this game is very much about momentum. You want to keep moving fast, get to the next fight, kill, get more guns, get better loot, and it's things like this where it just drives you to a sudden halt that gets frustrating. Once or twice you just brush it off, but when it keeps happening it does get very frustrating, and it can lead to the point where you just think, I'm just going to finish off for the day, and you go play something else. So driving mechanics do need seeing to, because I mean, I think they were pretty much the same from the first game to the second. There was no real change. Obviously there was a change for the pre-sequel because that was based on the moon, but as we say, I'm not going to talk much about the pre-sequel because personally I think that was a step backwards in the Borderlands series. Iridium or moonstones or some alternative currency. I feel like this is a good idea when it comes to buying backpack upgrades and ammo upgrades, because it allows you to spend your money on ammo, new guns, anything you want, or it lets you hoard money and just have the most money. And I feel like storage deck upgrades, they did take it quite forward too, because they did increase it with each DLC they added. So I feel like they need to keep this in. and they need to make it so this is still a thing. They can't take it out like some games do with certain mechanics. This is one where I'm just going to say it needs to stay. DLC. Borderlands 2's DLC was very strong. Most of it was thoroughly enjoyable. Some bits were enjoyable but a bit lackluster, but for the most part it was brilliant DLC. The pre-sequel, the DLC, was slightly awful. The ability to play as Jack was a nice twist, but as for the story DLC goes, it was a bit mediocre at best. So I feel like for Borderlands 3 or Borderlands 4, they need to step the DLC back up to Gearbox standards and make it so there's a lot of it for one, and that it's really enjoyable for players to play and gives value for money, basically.
A fantastic day for capitalism. 2 words, my friend. No refunds. Nothing. Farewell, friend.
Enemies and the AI. Now, for the most part, the AI of the enemies is very good. They command each other, they move about, they get to cover. When you go down, they'll back off, so it's harder to hit them to make the second wind harder. But as far as NPCs who assist you, like Lilith with the Firehawk, which some of the footage will be, there are parts where she kills enemies and it's supposed to be to assist you, but it's really frustrating when you've just gone down and the enemy you've whittled down to half health gets blown into pieces by Lilith, so you can't get a second wind. Now this could easily be fixed by just making it so NPCs that are with you can revive you, because NPCs are hardly ever with you, or make it so when you're down the NPCs stop killing the enemies so you have a chance. So I think that would be a nice addition to the AI. And as far as the enemies are, a lot more variation between them, because in the first one especially it felt like a lot of enemies were just reskins of each other. In the second game it was a lot better for the main game itself, but then as DLC started coming, enemies were just reskins of past enemies from the original vanilla game. I feel like they should make more enemies, different tactics, so you have to learn and adapt as the game goes on. It'll add elements of strategy to it.
Bet you're looking for Roland, huh? He's not here. The Bloodshots grabbed him. Made him cocky, too. They never came after me this hard.
They're in here! Get them!
Now the real fun begins. I'll see if I can't phase blast a few of them for you.
The meat puppy. They come.
Easter eggs. Now this is something that was done very well in Borderlands 2. There are so many Easter eggs in the game and it's unlikely that they've even all been found. But even things like when you're fighting bandits and one of them shouts, "I'm the one who knocks," it's amazingly funny, it's hilarious, and it does give you a chuckle when you're playing, and it just adds a level of enjoyment to the game. And I feel like this is something that they should keep in for the next game and not sort of let it slip like it did for the pre-sequel. And I think even the first one, it was very good for humour and Easter eggs, but the problem I had with the first one was it was very text based. There wasn't much character speech, and I know it was because it was, you know, a very early game for Gearbox and they might not have had the budget to get the voice actors, but for them to step it up even further in Borderlands 3 would be very good.
Get some ammo! This ain't over yet! They found another way in!
Now, graphics. This is one more from my brother than me, because as far as I'm concerned, the graphics in Borderlands 2 are good, they're alright. You can upgrade them a bit, you know, to make it look like a new game, of course, but I like the cel shading style because it fits the wacky humour of the game. But for some, they might want to see more Battleborn type graphics, although maybe not that far. Maybe Overwatch even, because it's a much cleaner version, but they would still need to keep some element of the black outlines because the comic book style does lend very well to the humour and to the pace of the game.
Well, that was fun. Feeling tapped out, though. Could you give me another hunk of iridium? Yeah, that's the stuff. Give it here. Thanks.
So thank you very much for watching. If you do like this type of video, which I hope you do after the
Since
views
the vault
that we got
opened,
on
my
the Dragon
siren
Age
powers
one,
have been getting
please
a
drop a
little
like below,
awesome.
comment, maybe give us a
This
game that you
Iridium
want us
stuff.
to talk
No
about,
idea
maybe
why.
tell
Now,
us if you
let's talk
agree,
about rescuing my
disagree,
boyfriend.
just start a conversation, we'll talk to you.
Well,
Please subscribe
next,
so you don't miss
before the
future
Bloodshots
uploads,
grabbed,
and
Roland
again,
was getting
thank you very
intel on
much
the
for
vault
listening,
and
thank
what
you very
Jack
much for
plans to
watching,
do
and
with
I'll
it.
see you in the next video.
Have to find him. I gotta head back to Sanctuary, keep the city in one piece while Roland's away. But first, I'm gonna teleport you into the Bloodshot stronghold. That's where they're keeping Roland. You'll catch him by surprise and have a real advantage. It'll be great. Hold still.